everybody. Hope you're doing marvellously well. Hope you're staying safe, happy, and healthy. We're with the rather wonderful Scott Elliott. How the devil are you?
I'm doing okay. That's an awesome intro.
You're very welcome. Your studio you call Chernobyl Studios. And the reason why I bring that up immediately is because there's a reason. You may well be American, and everybody can notice his American accent. But where are you based?
I'm in Kiev, actually. So I'm in Ukraine, just a couple hours south of Chernobyl.
Oh, fantastic.
All that whole area where all that happened, yeah.
So how long have you been there?
Oh, man. So I've actually been in Eastern Europe for almost 10 years. But Kiev specifically, 6. Long time.
What did you do in America? Were you doing music over here and then you brought it over there? Give us a little bit of your background.
So basically, I found out by accident around 15, 16 years old that I could hear and understand music just naturally. I could hear a melody and I could recreate it on the guitar. Started playing guitar, and then I got into this ridiculous idea that I could record music at home in 2000.
Who knew?
So I was like, all I need is a computer. I need a digital audio workstation, which ended up being Cakewalk Pro Audio 9. And I grabbed a Casio 88-key workstation, and I was like, I'm ready to go. No cables. Didn't have any idea what I was doing. And that's where it started. 2008, the housing bubble thing happened. Was working in construction. Obviously no work anymore. And then decided to move to Siberia and teach some English because I wanted to do something kind of extreme.
Okay, let's not gloss over there. So you went to Siberia to teach English. Okay, that's a big step.
It's a pretty normal thing, I think, No, again, what happened is, you get tired of sitting on your butt doing nothing. And then I just wanted to get out. I wanted to go do something. Everything happening in my personal life, music was still always there. It was the undercurrent.
First of all, I found your channel. I found it absolutely fascinating, and I thought the detail and your ears are great. You really hear things in a really remarkably great way. I think it's because you're very musical, and like you were telling me off air, you're also a drummer as well, which is pretty darn useful. But the thing that really drew me to you was you have this course where you explain really, really well how to take virtual guitar sounds or emulations or simulations, whatever the correct word is, I can never remember, and make them sound more natural, less quote-unquote digital. I know that's a horrible thing to say because digital isn't necessarily a bad thing. Digital means almost it's a facsimile, an exact replica. But we are used to being spoiled by expensive pieces of equipment and tape machines, coloring sounds and making them more pleasing to us. Tell me a little bit about how you got into that and what your process was of discovery.
A lot of that came out of necessity, like I said, because I just moved literally to the other side of the world. So hauling a cab or an amp, this isn't happening. And in the beginning, let me tell you, it sucked. Technology 7, 8 years ago, when I really started to work with amp sims, it was brutal. The technology was still new, and that digital harshness was way worse. It's the classic musical experience that everyone goes through. It's just the only difference is it was with amp simulators. That's all.
As we were talking about off camera, it's not genre specific. I mean, it's just basically.
No. For example, I do work in black and death metal, the more extreme stuff, but it literally does not matter. I don't go through the course unfortunately, how most of the YouTube videos are, where they just say, well, let me go ahead and open up the EQ plugin here. We're gonna cut at minus 3.4 dB at 2.6. No, I open up, I start, and I go, what are we hearing right now? It's an investment in your ear development. So everything that frustrated me when I was trying to learn how to do this, I put into the course. Because that's what frustrated me all the time. You got a YouTube video, sound like the pros in minutes. Click, 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 click. And you realize he's got an army baby face, $3,000 guitar. He doesn't need to do any EQ anyway, because it already sounds good. And then he opens FabFilter Pro Q2 back in the day, and he's got 4 cuts. Useless information because didn't tell you what he did, how he did it, why he did it that way, what he was listening for. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to learn. Why are you doing this?
Exactly.
And so that's the value of my course. I wanted to give you the why. Yeah. And then from there you develop. And the cool thing about it as well is Scott, aren't you worried that people are going to copy you? That's impossible because my ears are mine. They're not yours. You're going to take the concepts and you're going to create your entirely different, unique voice. And that's the great thing, because your ears will hear differently than mine. So there's nothing to be afraid of in that realm, in my opinion.
So, Scott, we're going to watch a little excerpt of the course here. And this is the part where you really describe your methodology.
Correct. Yeah, it's not just like, hey, here's the cool tone, check it out. In the beginning, I explain what the whole methodology is, how it works, why it works, what you should be listening for, the whole thing. I mean, so it's not just like you jumping in the deep end and good luck. It's literally do as best as I can to explain in as clear of a manner as I can what I'm listening for, why I'm doing something, why I do it this way, and actual EQing techniques as well that could be helpful, instead of just saying, notch this part out, why you should notch this and not notch that, what you should be listening for. So it's a big explanation of how and why the technique would work.
It's interesting how we have done so many things already up to this point, and so many decisions have had to be made where by the time you get to this point, you already more or less should be quite happy with the guitar tone that you already have. Because post-processing is like the polishing aspect of a guitar tone. You are going to clean it up and you're going to shape it and mold it. This is not the process where you are going to create a new tone. We've already done that. The creation process started with the cabinet impulse, and it went through with the tone stack process. So with post-processing, now it's about, okay, how do we shape this up a little bit, get it to sit in the mix, deal with a couple problems, and get it sounding beautiful. So post-processing is a molding, shaping, polishing part of the guitar creation process, and has actually nothing to do with the creating process, okay? We are going to be working on the guitar bus. So what I have is I have a left and a right, and I have bussed it here, as you can see, into the guitar bus. The first thing we have to do, obviously, is we need to do EQ, and not just any type of EQ, but we need to do 2 moves specifically right away, right off the bat. Now, every time that I EQ guitar, I always do the same thing. I always open an EQ. It's the first thing I always do, and even if I know there's a resonance that I want to cut that's annoying me, I ignore it for the time being, because I always do my filters first. I always do a low filter and a high filter first before I do anything else. So let's go ahead and do that. You can use any EQ that you want, by the way, it doesn't matter. I have a bandwidth of about 18 generally, and there's a couple things we need to keep in mind here, right? We're in drop A. Right, we are going to have a lot more lower frequency information than we would have if we were playing in like standard E. But that does not mean that's information you need to keep. All right, remember, we still have a bass guitar and a kick drum. And if we're playing death metal and we have a lot of double bass at 240 BPM, there's a whole load of low-end information that we have to deal with. And a guitar does not need to be in those regions, in my particular opinion. So a low filter, let's go ahead and press play. And the way I learned how to do this is I would bring a filter up to about 300. This is extreme, right? It's like the same thing with the tone stack stuff. You go to an extreme and you work your way backwards. This is an extreme cut. It's way too high. But you might not know that in the beginning. So how I learned how to do this was by starting a cut at 300 and then working the cut backwards until the guitar became full-bodied again. Let's try that now. So you can hear the definite difference when we start bringing that filter down, when all that woofy woofy starts coming up again. Now, we don't need all the woofy woofy, all right? And truth be told, in my particular opinion, I don't see any reason to ever low pass below 100. These are guitars. We have a bass guitar for a reason, all right? So I generally won't start at 300 anymore. I usually start at 120. And I work my way between 120 and 100. And I'll do some extreme examples just to see what my ears are feeling like during that day. So let's go ahead and set the filter for the low cut and see what we land on. Great. So a lot of low-end, rumbly energy that we don't need in the guitar tone has now been effectively removed. We don't need it, all right? So we don't need it, we cut it out. Now we do the exact same thing with the high end. Now, here is a huge difference between amp simulators and real guitars. So amp simulators are going to be a bit more annoying in the high range of things, and it may be that you are going to notice that you're doing a lot more aggressive cutting in the high end range. So for example, if you've ever watched a video of CLA or anybody else doing these free mixing videos on YouTube, they always say things like, oh yeah, I just filter out the guitars around 12 or 11K. Anything below that would just kill the energy. Those are on real cabinets with a real speaker moving, pushing air. We are working with digital amp simulators, which is just a perfect representation every single time. Plus, it's digital. Plus, we have digital noise and gunk that we have to deal with, and we just don't need that stuff in our signal. So we're going to be doing cuts much lower than 11 or 12K. For example, 9 or even 7K, depending on the amp simulator. Same deal here. Instead of 300, you would go to 4,000 and then work the filter up until that sweet spot hits where just enough high-end energy, but not too much white noise, nasty stuff. The same thing you want to listen for here, like you did with the tone sec and the presence knob, make sure that it doesn't sound like it's under a pillow. All right. Actually, it's very obvious when that point in time is. Let's go ahead and dial it in. So I'm liking it right about there. And you notice, what is this? 8K. That's a lot lower than 11K. Just for the sake of argument, let's see what 11K would sound like. Or let's go with 10 and then go to 11. So there's a lot of that extra white noise, digital stuff when you're filtering so high up in the frequency range. We don't want that stuff, okay? We want to cut that out. Now, there's a couple of rules of thumb here that you can do. You can do a bandwidth of 18, which is pretty gentle. However, sometimes I will do complete brick walls. Like if it's really noisy, I will brick wall and just nuke entire frequency ranges above, for example, 11 or 10K. Now, the benefit of doing something like that is this right here. I'm more or less leaving all that information right here untouched. Now, you notice when I did the gentle slope here, I'm essentially starting to do a cut around 4K, and I'm sloping all those frequencies off, and then I'm finally starting to do some work around 9K. But with a complete brick wall, nothing happens until the 7K mark. So everything here is retained. We keep that tone, but everything over here, deleted. All right, let's hear what that difference sounds like. So with the 18 dB bandwidth, obviously it's softer. It's a softer cut. It's a softer high end. It feels softer, more round, right? When we have that brick wall, it's bam. We have all those frequencies there. We're just getting rid of all the white noise that we don't need in the tone. That could be something you want to do in the future if you have a lot of noise that you want to deal with, but you want to do a higher cut and keep more of the tonal aspects of the guitar without really touching those. For example, if you're using a 18 dB bandwidth. It's your call. There's no right or wrong answer. You got to EQ exactly the way that is required for the guitar that you're working on. I think I'm going to go with a brick wall. And the reason for that is because, as you heard when I brought the cut out to here, it's just noise. I don't want it in there at all. So I don't see the point to have any of it in there. I'll brick wall at 6620. Great, who cares? Great, I like the way that sounds. So those are the two moves I always do first right away. Low cut, high cut. That's it. Now let's see how much of a difference we have already made with this guitar tone. Right away, it's cleaner on the top, it's not as harsh, a bit smoother, and this rumbly stuff in the low end we've gotten rid of. So we've already cleaned up our guitar tone significantly with just two simple processing moves. That's why I always do my filters first before I do anything else. Next thing I always do is a bit of, I would like to call a digital amp simulator hack, I guess. So when, like, I remember how I said, like, the reason why CLA and all these other guys will, like, do a high cut around 11 or 12K on a cabinet, because it's a real cabinet, it's a real speaker, there's a real dynamic going on there. It's not like a constant, perfect representation of that frequency range every time you play guitar. Now, for that exact same reason, we always need to look at doing some kind of a mid-range cut, because for the exact same reason I just explained, we do not have a speaker that is dynamically pushing air. We have just an impulse, a snapshot in time. And for that reason, we have a perfect representation of that snapshot every single time we play guitar. And what that basically translates to is a heightened repeating frequency range of low mids and some unrealistic movement that may not happen when you're using a real cabinet. And that translates to mid-range gunk and boxiness and cloudiness. And we need to get rid of that. So you saw me, I did a 2 dB cut at 400. That's just arbitrary. It's not like you have to do that. I just do that. It's like my starting point. And it doesn't need to be 2. It could end up being, this much, or it could end up being this much. It depends on the cabinet I'm using and the tuning that I'm working in, right? So here we go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to enable and disable the EQ so my ears can understand the difference. And then from that point, I will basically sweep back and forth like this. And I'll find the location of the cut where I like it most. What I'm listening for is I'm trying to clear out the tone, get rid of like the masking, low-mid muddiness, and scoop it a little bit, but get rid of boxiness, but still keep it, like it has a body to it, right? So a lot of things going on. So first things first, A, B, so my ears will understand the difference, and then frequency sweep. All right, so let's go right to 400, and let's begin. All right, so it was pretty clear that that 2 dB cut was not enough. There was a lot of energy happening here. And then moving back and forth a little bit, there's a lot of stuff going on in the low end here. So it made more sense to cut around the 300, 200 range. I like it here. And that's basically it. Those are the three things that I always do before I do anything else. Now you'll notice there's a sequential order. Cutting, getting rid of things we don't need, right? Now after this, after I've done my filters, after I've done my low mid cut, only at that point will I start to focus my ears on resonances. This is a topic. Now I know you guys have messaged me, I've heard it before, like you feel like you can resonance hunt forever. And truth be told, you basically can, because guitars are a broadband instrument. You see information when I press play. You see information playing from 0 to 20,000. It's just the way guitars are. We don't need all of that, obviously. But if you start cutting down resonances, other resonances that were masked by that resonance will start showing up. I get the struggle. The struggle is real, but the struggle is eternal. You're never going to be able to get rid of all the resonances. That's the truth. There will always be resonances, but the point is that you want to get rid of the resonances that are the most offensive, the most annoying, the resonances that are truly covering the tone that you've created, right? Because a lot of the small, subtle resonances will get buried in the mix. People won't hear them. You won't hear them. So there's no point to sit in solo mode all the time, just resonance hunting. Obviously, I'm sitting in solo mode right now because I'm just showing you guys the technique in my post-processing chain and how I would do this in a mix. It just makes more sense to do it like this so we can focus on this without listening to everything else. So when it comes to resonance hunting, basically, I have a rule of thumb. I try to only cut 4 to 5 frequencies maximum, unless I have a very unruly cabinet impulse response, which there's an advanced video that you can see later on in the course talking about that, or I have a baked tone from a client and I'm just trying to get it workable. But when I have all the control, I really want to do as much as I can with the cabinet impulse first, going into the tone stack, and then post-processing. So if you are picking a cabinet impulse and you notice a super hardcore offensive whistling, maybe you don't want to use that cabinet, right? So in this case, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for and get rid of the most offensive resonances that I can hear, all right? So let's begin. Now, what am I doing here? I'm doing a technique called EQ sweeping. What this basically does is I'm creating an EQ band, and I do kind of a narrow Q, and I'm maximizing, right? I'm basically looking for that resonance that's very offensive. A resonance is basically just like a repeating frequency that turns into a whistle that becomes very offensive, right? And the way that we find these is basically you hear them, and then you kind of have to hunt for them. You got to find that range where it's like, stop, there it is, and then you pull it down. I'll show you how to pull it down when we find this first resonance. Now you should be able to hear that. That resonance is a constant whistle. Whoa, like that. We want to get rid of it, right? Now, this is what not to do. Don't just do this. Oh, I found it. Done. Don't do that. You're just creating a hole in your guitar tone, and you didn't need to do a minus 18 cut. Why? There's no reason for that. So once you find the resonance that you want to cut, basically come down here to the gain, because you don't want to accidentally move it. You'll have to refine it again. Come down to the gain, bring it to neutral. So there's that thing again, coming back to neutral. So you have something to reference. And you basically want to pull it down, push it up, so your ear will understand the difference. Too much, too much, too little. And then the idea is you pull down the EQ to just enough to where the resonance is not louder than the guitar tone. All right. There's no reason to do these massive 18 dB cuts. None. You're just creating holes in your guitar tone. You want to cut just enough of the resonance so that it's not the loudest thing anymore. All right, so let's do that. There you go, just like that. Now, because we had this mid range, this mid cut already, that particular range was dealt with a little bit, but there was still a little tiny bit of wah in there sometimes. Now this, it doesn't matter how much of a cut you have to do. You just do a cut until you don't hear it anymore. Don't look at these numbers, they don't matter. None of these numbers matter. The presets numbers don't matter. Just cut to the point where you don't hear it anymore. So now that this one is gone, we can focus on the next most offensive resonance. Great. So we made 2 cuts so far, resonance cuts. Let's see if we are creating a better tone or if we're going overboard. Wow, we have really cleaned up the guitar a lot thus far. And you're counting here, we've done a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 simple EQ moves, right? We want to keep that going. So there's a lot of stuff happening up here. This is particular to the angle amplifier. They're well known for being presency and stuff like that. So let's go up here and let's see how we can tame this down a little bit. Now you saw me adjusting the Q, the width of the EQ, right? I'm doing this because I want to capture as much of that resonance as possible without really affecting the neighboring frequencies, because you got to remember that everything in this area is being affected. So I really only want the offensive part. So I'm narrowing or widening the Q to the degree where I get as much as I can without affecting the other area. So I have a lot of the offending frequencies right here encapsulated. Let's get rid of them. So now we can experiment. So that's enough for that particular area. But I'm curious if I expand this a little bit and I kind of take that whole chunk and I sort of bring that whole chunk down just a little bit, if I can retain the aggressiveness without creating a hole in the high end. So I really like that. So I've been able to take this little range like that and just decrease it slightly all at once. So I'm keeping the original dynamics of the tone pretty much the same without having to poke holes into it. I'm just bringing down that little chunk a little bit, a whopping -2 dB, and it smooths everything out. Now we don't have that harsh happening to us. We just have basically one more that's really killing me. And there we go.
Do you have some favorite emulations, simulations, virtual amps? I'm using all the names there.
Yeah. So basically, it's like this. For Angle, I'll typically use that Mercurial. For Marshall, it's a toss-up. It depends if I need a crap ton of gain. It's going to be the Nameless, no question. If I want more of a classic Marshall-y sound, it'll be the Nimbrini Audio MRH 810, if I remember correctly. It's just got more of a warm, vintagey type of character to it. I'm not the biggest fan of PBs, to be honest. I kind of stay away from the 5150s. Angle,
I love
it's just a
5150s.
common. Yeah, it's just a thing. It's a very common thing. For me, it's just very identifiable, so I typically want to get away from it.
Right,
Same reason why I don't use JCM 800s or the run-of-the-mill Marshalls, because you just hear that presency high end, you're like, it's a Marshall, classic Marshall, so I'm a big fan of Angles. I think I really love Angle for the attack and the note definition that you can get with really low tunings.
I don't know if you can be seen in the camera, but I do have
Absolutely.
an Angle, but I also have the new EVH as well. So, but that's Eddie's one.
See, and those are all cool, and that's the great thing is you can use any of those amps that you want. In the course, I do a demonstration with a completely free amp, completely free chain. Do a demonstration with the Nameless. I do a demonstration with a Kazrog plugin. So it's just to prove, and I do the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's not like I'm changing things. Here are the new set of instruments. What do we have to do? So we always take what we are getting and then go from there, instead of just arbitrarily going filter, cut, mid-cut, done. It's here's what the sound that we're getting with this amp, with this guitar, and this tuning. What do we do? I even have a practice and training regime video, how to train your ears. I show you how I trained myself to get better and faster at recognizing problem areas and what to do and how to shape the guitar tone.
The world has moved so quickly. Like you're saying, the difference between like just 7 years ago and now is phenomenal. I am intrigued though, as a complete sideline. I'm pretty amazed how close Amp Farm got originally back in the mid 90s. It's still like
you listen to it now, you're like, not bad,
it's pretty darn good,
Yeah.
Because I actually think some of the ones that came out after Amp Farm were worse.
Yep. Yeah, that happens. You know what I mean? Really super digital sounding or just noise. And so you got to be careful. But I mean, that's the great thing. What do you want to do? You want to blow a couple grand on pedals, cables, cabs, stacks to find out that you don't like the sound?
Yeah.
Because when you demoed it at the store, it's in a different room with different acoustics and different sounds. And you take it home and it sounds like not what you want. Or you can experiment with amp simulators, which are generally more affordable.
Yep.
And right here, I can just open everything up, A/B right away, and you can do it in your headphones. So, in any tone you want, any style you want, it's dependent on you. So you can go ahead and use what's in that course and create the style that you want to create.
We'll have obviously links to it down below here. So that's rather wonderful. What is it that you're bringing that they can't get from somewhere else?
I'm bringing the clarity right to them in a package. Like I mentioned earlier, where when you're sitting on YouTube for years, this guy says you should do this. This guy says that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and you just sort of follow the leader until you've gone the circle a few times, and you're just frustrated, right? None of that anymore. It's like, here it is. I went through the pain already. I've done that. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I've clearly defined how to do something. You will be empowered to use your own ears to make your own tones. Your own tones. You're not going to copy my tones with my settings because I don't give them to you. There are no presets. You will learn literally from ground zero how to make your own guitar tone so you can have your own identity and your own voice. So clarity, and you don't have to go around searching the entirety of the internet anymore. It's in a nice package right there. Boom. All of it.
Love it. Well, Scott, thank you ever so much. You absolutely rock.
Oh, thank you. It's a pretty big honor for me to be here. And listen, I want to get this out of the way. It's like it was a pretty big shock to hear that you have checked out the course and liked it so much. And I'm really honored to be on the channel, like trying not to smile so much like an idiot right now. But honestly, I thank you very much for allowing me to be on your channel and talk about this. So Really appreciate it.
That it's an honor to have you on here too. Interview me on yours. I'd love to be on your show.
We'll get there. We'll make it the Warren listens to black metal.
Yeah, why not? I'll do it. I probably heard a lot more than you think. It's funny because I was on Spotify the other day, and of course you can see what somebody's listening to.
Sure.
Because I publish that, and I was going through like a lot of new metal, trying to find a reference track that suited what I wanted to be working on. And it's funny, like somebody messaged me, you were just listening to blah 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 and blah 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 and blah blah blah, and they were like calling me out on all these like modern metal bands, that I was listening to. I was like, yeah, I was trying to get some tones. It's what you do. You research.
Trying to understand what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Please, everybody, leave any comments and questions below. I will probably throw Scott under the bus and he can answer them. And have a marvelous time recording and mixing. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you.
See ya.